Welcome back to Dragoon X Omega 2. This is the second video of a Let's Play series of this total conversion Romhack of Final Fantasy 1. If you haven't seen part 1, do go back and check out the playlist of all of the videos in this series as they come out in order. Last time we defeated the traitor at our at the Marsh Cave hideout, and we brought back to the keep. We picked up the Sun Key, which is one of 4 key items that we have to get to reach the other part of this continent called Merca. We need to head over to Endon. Endon is the area where some loggers were disappearing, and that's where Sargon was heading or was coming from when he went to this keep when his men turned on him and attacked him. That was kind of to get you caught up with our story. So Sargon was the commander of a unit. Another one of his people betrayed him with all of his men. He had to slaughter many of them, and the ones who survived, we had to go defeat in the Marsh Cave over there. Anyway, we're fighting a few battles on the way over here. We're about to change enemy tile sets as we cross this area. Believe we have, yeah, we have done it right here. So the blob area was one tile set for enemies, the mound is another one, and this is a step up both in difficulty and of course in reward. I am a power leveler when it comes to doing ROM hacks that are blind like this because I like crawls to be smooth. I don't want you all to be watching me get knocked down by enemy groups over and over again, or I don't want me to have to do that either. So it's best for me to invest off recording time, usually on fast forward mode, doing power leveling. So I am many levels higher than I should be at this point in the game. Here's a long bridge over to Endon. There's a couple of other town tiles on these raised areas. I do not see a way to get to them, at least right now. Maybe that will come later, but there's not a good way to get to them right now. Here you get to see the area of effect spell Gene Rot. Gene Rot is pretty cool. That's your only area of effect damage spell that we have right now. I was talking in part 1 about elements in this game. I'm not sure how they work. I would assume that there are still 8 element spots. I'm not sure how they have been changed or how they are being used by the designers of this game. There's not a, as far as I found still, a comprehensive document about all of the changes and all of the mechanics of this game. So everything that you hear from me is based on observation and my knowledge of the original vanilla Final Fantasy 1, which is strong but not comprehensive, I would say. So this is the town of Endon. We're going to save here at the clinic, save and recover our spell charges. This is town has been poisoned by the monster. There was a monster attacked this town, and everyone, of course, except the shopkeepers, have been poisoned. And so their text is interesting. Nobody says anything except "ah" and "make it stop." I think we talked to some of them on this recording. That is 2 of the guns there. I already have the shot. I have the nicest armor and the nicest weapon that you can pick up right here. And this little girl says, "Make it stop, ... And this is a great throwback to Final Fantasy 1. There's lots of tombs. Here, there's ... I like that. In Final Fantasy 1, I think it says this is a tomb, except for there's one Easter egg about Erdrick in Elfland right there. So the Varion dragged off most of the people. It took them to the north. We have to get the Zephyrum. What is the Zephyrum, you may ask? The Zephyrum only grows on the dung of the Varion. So the Varion is a monster. The Zephyrum is a mushroom that grows on its dung. And the people will later say that they used to worship the Varion as a god, and it lived in the basement of this temple that we're about to head to. And they used to have to make human sacrifices to the Varion. But then the Varion seemed to change its mind about how it felt about having humans around, or it thought their sacrifices were not sufficient, and so it carried off many of the villagers and poisoned the rest. So we need to get the Zephyrum from this dungeon as quickly as we can. I have a very good supply of antidotes because the enemies in the upcoming dungeon are extremely likely to use a move called Venom, which is not a damaging spell. It looks like it's I'm not sure if it's a spell or a skill. That's another quirk about Final Fantasy 1. Some things are spells and some things are skills. and enemies' AI routines have them behave differently if they have spells or skills, or they go through an order about using spells or skills. Anyway, it's called Venom. It does no damage, but it just attempts to apply the poison status. And all of the enemies that I have seen in here, I believe, use it. And there it is, the first move that we see an enemy pull off. The Brood enemy pulls off the Venom attack. Now, luckily, it's redundant when he tries to do it again. So the second round Venom does no damage to me. I just need to put the antidote there. Another kind of icky thing about this, the way this patch is programmed, that some other hackers, I believe, have solved, is that key items or new items, when they're added to your inventory, they go in the top slot and push everything down beneath them in this game. And other hackers of the Final Fantasy I ROM have made them add on to the bottom, so it doesn't change the location of things. FF1 had that quirk, and it was very annoying for players. That if you didn't have all of the right items, your muscle memory could sometimes make you use the wrong item. I don't know if you noticed it, but just outside this dungeon, I used the SRAM. That works like a tent. It saves the game, and I believe it recovers a little bit of hit points, but it might just save the game. It costs 50 units of money. I can't remember what they're called in this one. They use a $sign to indicate it, but they're not called dollars. The drone right there and the other enemy, we were lucky to not get venomized by them, and they provide great experience and money. So when I was doing a lot of grinding off stream, that they provided a lot. Now here's a Lamia something. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. It looks like a wrench. So I actually go to check to see if it's a weapon or if it's a piece of armor. It is a piece of armor. And Lamia. Now, looking at the images there, I've got a plate helmet and a plate armor. Those are pretty clear. That Lamia one, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be what slot that lives in, but looking at it, it adds one more defense and it takes one more evasion down from me, because your equipment weight will bring your evade percent down, but of course your armor goes up. I don't know if I talked about this in part 1, but in Final Fantasy I, armor values are straight subtraction. So when you take an amount of damage, it subtracts your absorb amount from every hit of that. So if your absorb is 18 and you take a 22 damage hit, it will just take 18 off of that hit, and then any leftover damage will be applied to your character to a minimum of 1. So if a hit lands, it will do a minimum of 1 damage in FF1. There is no such thing as a 0 damage hit. If you land a hit, you're going to do a point. So here is a black area. You might think that that's just a hole in the floor I have to walk around, but nope, it is indeed the way to get down to the basement here to fight the Varion. I'm going to use an herb to bring my hit points all the way up. I've got some spells. I'm way over leveled, so this boss battle is not going to be super nerve-wracking, but we're going to see what the Varion can do to us. Has kind of a cool, like Vince Clortho look from Ghostbusters, I think. Like the dogs that Gozer the Gozerian has. Anyway, we're using Bolt here, and Venom does land, so we're poisoned, but still no damage on us. And you can see Bolt is doing super nice damage. I'm not sure if the intelligence stat works in this game. I would assume that the hackers took that into account. In Final Fantasy I, it does nothing. And different hackers have disagreed about how it was even supposed to work. The bioelectric damage does take the Varion out. So I don't know if it increases damage of spells. One way that it's dealt with in like Final Fantasy Restored is that the intelligence stat can improve how often a spell's damage gets doubled. So in Final Fantasy I, when you have a damage spell, it either quote-unquote hits or quote-unquote misses. And that move right there, that is similar to when you get an orb lit up in Final Fantasy I. When you put an orb on the altar, we have the screen shake, and you have the emulator that always attempts to show the streak of light, but the FCEUX does not show that streak of light. I have not seen a version of an emulator, at least of the FCEUX family. Maybe Nestopia or something showed it correctly. But you really have to be playing it on the NES hardware to see that beam of white light come off the floor. So I'm guessing that probably tried to happen there, but it didn't, because the sound effect and the shaking showed that it did. So something in the game has changed there with that. Normally in your FF1 menu, you would see an orb or a crystal has been lit up again after that, but I'm not sure what change that made. Maybe it just they were using the Temple of Earth or something for the dungeon area there. So anyway, we've defeated the Varion. We've picked up the F-Room to cure the people of this town of Endon. There is a villager we didn't talk to on the video here that I talked to before, he's too sad. Endon is eternally in your debt. We killed the Varion, and now the nurse, and you presume that the doctor and the nurse have spread this throughout the town. I'm looking to see if they're the ones who tell me where to go next or what to do next, but I clearly need to just start talking to the people in town. I am impressed with the number of different dialogues that are present in this game. There's a lot of it here. I won't read it all out loud. You can pause that and read some of the text there if you'd like. But almost every NPC I've seen has a different phrase. Even matching guards on both sides of a door will say different things. This is the little piece about the temple where humans were sacrificed to the Varion. That's pretty dark stuff, and I enjoy it. I'm really liking this patch a lot. A few visual hiccups notwithstanding. So there's Lord Saya, who we need to go talk to, who has the air key. That's who our next mission is, to go talk to Lord Saya of the air key. Here we have just a Purgador is southwest of here. Okay, I can't get there with my current setup. I've explored everywhere I can. So I will need to get across there, and this cottage right here says Grandpa can fix up anything, and he was too depressed of losing his son. But now he gives us this hover bike that he's repaired, so I can cross that bridge in a hover bike. So we've avenged his son's death. Before that, he's just too sad to talk to you or too sad to give you anything. But I've even noticed after defeating the Marsh Cave, the first town that's by the Marsh Cave, there's just, you can see the prices of the level 3 magic, which I have. Actually, I have charges of level 4 magic. I just don't have any of the spells yet. But some of the dialogue changed after I beat the Marsh Cave with some of those people. And that's not totally unheard of in FF1. I mean, some characters' dialogue changes throughout the game, but not very many of them. And usually they're more notable characters, not just rando villagers. That would be like the Circle of Sages. They will like check to see how many orbs you have lit before they choose, not quote-unquote choose, but before they tell you what they're going to tell you, depending on how many orbs you have lit. So that's pretty cool. This game clearly must do more of that. It must check for things more often. Anyway, that brings us to the end of part 2. Next time, we're going to head over to Lord Saya and see what we need to do to get the air key. If you like this video or this series, feel free to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is not totally an obscure Romhack, but this is one of the more popular ones I've played. I've heard a few people mention it. I've heard things about it. It's finally time I tackle this game. I'm not sure what to expect in the times coming up. If you have questions or just some thoughts about it, I'd love if you'd leave me a comment or hit me up on Twitter, where I am also active_ATE, and we will see you next time.